श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम ओम सहनावतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनाधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. So yesterday we saw the introduction, the first sloka, where it was very clear that in the body, sense organs, prana, mind, intellect, ego, etc., are the external objects which are never I. In those things, I see the I see the self. They are never the self. So, in the body sense organ complex, with reference to that, there are this kind of erroneous knowledge. With external objects, we see if they lose, we think we lost. Whatever is dear to us, if they lose, we feel ourselves to be lost. If they win, we see ourselves to be successful. So therefore, this kind of erroneous knowledge is there where there are these different kinds of associations. We call this dravya, guna, kriya, jati, sambandha association. Meaning dravya, wherever there is an object, like the pot, body, etc., there is an object, vishaya. So whichever is an object, that is not self. Wherever there is an association with guna, guna means attribute, can be the colors or the size or the sattva, rajas, etc., anything. So if it is these, then it is not self. Then kriya, action, going, coming, whatever. Since the self is a non-dual, there can be no movement or anything. Nishkriya, so there can be no movement. Okay. Then jati, class, genus. So this class or genus cannot also exist in the self. In cow, there is cowness. Though we accept for a namesake for transactional sake, the jati for the logicians, in reality, Vedantins don't accept this jati, class. Why? Because the definition for jati is nityam, ekam, anekanugatam. Ekam, nityam, anekanugatam. It is one, it is eternal, and it exists in multiple. None of them are acceptable for us because ekam, one, is self. Nityam is only self. Anekanugatam is impossible in self. So the self cannot, that which is one, that cannot have a class, jati, because it should exist in multiple things. Okay, so we don't accept jati. For transactional reasons, we accept jati, but in reality, we don't accept jati. Jati means it can be humans, etc., or it can be the religions, etc., whatever. But reality, the classifying a group of people is called as jati. A group of things is called as jati, like the cowness in cow. So, according to the logicians, even the cows, the whole species of cow, it is destroyed, still the cowness will not be destroyed, cannot be destroyed. That is their logic. Okay, so we don't accept jati. Association, sambandha is possible only when there are two things. In one non-dual self, where can be sambandha and who can we have sambandha? Where can be there an association with whom it can have that relationship association? It is impossible. So, therefore, I am Sakshi, the witness principle. I don't explain it as witness principle. Why? Because witness has something to perceive. Here, this Sakshi, the witness principle, does not have anything to perceive. The witness, in the sense we say, is because it is self-effulgent. That effulgence is what is illuminating everything. Therefore, we call it witness principle. Okay? So, Nityam, it is eternal. And it is the one's own self, individual self, the internal self, the indweller self. Śivo'ham, that Shiva, that auspiciousness, I am. The self is the only thing which is auspicious. Anything which is not self, the non-self, is inauspicious. Okay? I am that auspicious self. Now, after explaining this in first shloka, now the general doubt. Why do I see, if I am Shiva, I am that Brahman, I am that self, why do I see myself as a Jiva, not Shiva? A. Why do I see myself as individual self and not absolute? That is first question. The second question is, okay, now I know there is a problem. What is the solution? So we need to understand the problem and understand the solution. Just the solution without understanding the problem, we cannot apply that solution anywhere. Just this problem without the solution, it is going to complicate even more. We already are in big complication. It is going to complicate even more. So he is explaining the problem and the solution. Okay, fine. The problem and the solution, if it is going to be explained directly as Jiva and Shiva, what is the cause for being Jiva and what is the means for gaining that Shiva state, if it is explained directly, then we will not be accepting it, because this is something which is a dogma. It is not something which is real, which is acceptable. Have you seen anything somewhere, something like that somewhere? So we need to have an example and an exemplified. Drishtanta and Darshtanta. Okay, so he is bringing both example and exemplified for the problem and solution, both. Example, problem, solution, exemplified problem, solution. That is what he is bringing the next shloka. rajjvajñānādbhāti rajjau yathāhiḥ svātmājñānādātmano jīvabhāvaḥ āptoktyā'hibhrāntināśe rajju jīvo nāhaṃ deśikoktyā śivo'ham rajjvajñānāt bhāti rajjau yathāhiḥ svātmājñānādātmano jīvabhāvaḥ āptoktyā'hibhrāntināśe rajju jīvah nāhaṃ deśikoktyā śivo'ham. Beautiful. So rajju ajñānāt, what does he say? Just understand the shloka first. Rajju ajñānāt, because of the ignorance of the rope. Yatha, just as because of the ignorance of the rope. Rajjau yathāhiḥ bhāti. In the rope, the snake shines. Instead of seeing it as rope, you see it as snake, because of the ignorance of the substratum, the rope. Similarly, svātmājñānādbhātmano jīvabhāvaḥ, because of the ignorance of the self, one's individual nature, inherent nature, we see oneself to be jiva. Okay, the problem, common solution. āptoktyā'hibhrāntināśe rajju. Āptoktyā, from the words of a trustworthy person, when the ignorance, the erroneous knowledge of a snake is destroyed, then the rope shines. We have to understand this. I'll explain this later. So, through the trustworthy person's words, when the snake is destroyed, the rope shines. Similarly, through the teaching of the instruction of the Guru, deśikoktyā, through the instruction of the Guru, I understand śivo'ham nāhaṃ jīvah. Nāhaṃ jīvah śivo'ham. I am not Jiva, I am Shiva. Or śivo'ham nāhaṃ jīvah. I am Shiva and not Jiva. That is how you have to interpret. We'll understand it clearly later. Now, rajju ajñānāt. This is the gist of the meaning of the shloka. Now, rajju ajñānāt, because of the ignorance of the rope. The general question with people, we can understand, we can accept even dogmas as an answer, solution for problems which we face, but never understand that this one non-dual self, how did this one non-dual self become multiple or see myself to be something else? This is one thing which no seeker can comprehend. This is the biggest riddle in life. Great puzzle. I cannot see why I become this body sense organ complex. I see myself as body sense organ complex if I am one non-dual self. The question is because of ignorance. Because of ignorance, when a person who is capable sees himself to be incapable. The example, best example for this is the story of Hanuman. Hanuman had great many siddhis, but because of a curse, all his powers are wheeled from him. When the guru, his friends, they say, oh, you have been doing this kind of great things. It is this is a very simple thing. Jumping, crossing over the ocean is a very simple thing for you. When he is told his inherent nature, he sees himself to be that potential great power. He crosses over the ocean. So that ignorance is this is a common thing which we call as phantom hand, phantom leg, etc. Sometimes like that, and sometimes not seeing the potential eye, etc. I'll explain. See, some people don't have a hand, but they'll try to grasp things without that hand. That hand got amputated, but they have the sense, and the brain sends a signal, and they want to catch it with their hand, the non-existing hand. Ignorance. This is one thing. And some people, though they have hand, leg, etc., eye, etc., any sense organ, it can work in any sense organ. So, though they have that sense organ, somehow they are psychologically impaired to believe that that sense organ does not function. Even though they can see their eyesight, their cornea, everything is perfect, they will not be able to see. Even though their sense organ is perfect, they will not be able to see, they will not be able to hear. Because they have completely decided that they cannot see. So, this is the error. Similarly, because of this fellow's ignorance regarding his inherent nature, this fellow is not seeing himself to be the self. Now, the example. When the rope is seen, if your rope is seen as a rope during it cannot be seen as a rope or snake during darkness. It cannot be seen as rope or snake, or you cannot see it as snake in bright sun. So, for you to mistake rope as snake, you need to have a dull light. Manda andakara, we call it. Mediocre light, dull light. Only during that dull light, dull brightness, you can see the rope as snake. So, these are all aiding causes. So, you see that rope as a snake. Seeing the rope as snake, seeing what is not as what is what is called as a ignorance. Atasmin tad buddhihi, that is what is called as atasmin tad buddhihi. In that the idea of that is called as a ignorance. This is a definition by Bhagavan Bhashyakara in a Brahma Sutra. Atasmin tad buddhihi ityavochama. We have already said that the idea of that is called as ignorance. In not snake, the idea of snake is ignorance. In not rope, the idea of rope is ignorance. That is also. If you see rope as rope, there is no problem. If you see snake as snake, it is not a problem. If you see rope as snake or snake as rope, that is a problem. That is ignorance. Okay. So, now that is, again, what is this ignorance? There are different definitions in different places. In Viveka Chodamani, he says, Sannapya sannapya ubhayatmikano, bhinnapya bhinnapya ubhayatmikano. It is neither existence nor non-existence, nor both. It is neither different, nor non-different, nor both. Like that he explains it. Meaning, simple words, Bhagavan Bhashyakara explains sadasat ubhaya bhinnatvam, sadasat ubhaya vilakshanatvam, sadasat vilakshanatvam. Sadasat vilakshanatvam. That is the definition Bhagavan Bhashyakara uses. The definition for ignorance is sat asat vilakshanatve sati anirvachaniyatvam. Means sat bhinnatve sati, I am splitting that. Sat bhinnatve sati, asat bhinnatve sati anirvachaniyatvam. It can neither be qualified to be called as existence, neither be qualified to be called as non-existence. At the same time, it is inexplicable. Meaning, the rope which you see as snake Now, the question cannot, that is why we say always the question regarding the ignorance is impossible. I cannot ask, when did this snake come? The moment you saw it a snake, instead of seeing it as rope, why did it come? Because you don't see the rope. From where did it come? What is that question? These questions are impossible to answer. The simple thing is you are not seeing the rope as rope. That is why all these problems. Okay. So you cannot say it is a existent, because while seeing the rope, a snake, it existed. But before that, seeing the snake, it was rope. After understanding it is rope, it is rope. During the time of seeing the snake also, it is only rope. Therefore, it cannot be existence. Okay, asat. It cannot be called as non-existence, because you are perceiving the snake, you are perceiving the body sense organ complex, this world. Therefore, it cannot be non-existence. It cannot be categorically negated as existence. It cannot be categorically accepted or negated as non-existence. Then what is that? It cannot be both. Existence as well as non-existence. Nowhere can these contradictory coexist. Like darkness and light, they cannot coexist. So what is that? Then the answer, Vedantins have an answer for that. It is called as anirvachaniya. Nirvachaniya. 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 Nirvachaniya means to explain. Anirvachaniya means inexplicable. It cannot be explained as what, how, where, etc. That is the nature of this ignorance. Adasmin tadhi sadasat ubhaya vilakshanatvam. Sadasat vilakshanatve sati anirvachaniyatvam. Okay. Then, for people who accept this ignorance as non-existence, because some people accept it as ignorance as non-existence, for them, they have another definition for ignorance, which is bhava rupatve sati jnana nivartyatvam. It is non-existent. If it is non-existent, you don't have to do anything. If it is existence, even God cannot change, destroy it. If it is non-existent, you also don't even have to destroy it. So since it is something else, you have to work for it. See, Bhagavan in Gita says, even God cannot. Why we say is, Bhagavan himself says in Gita that na abhava vidyate sataha. Na abhava vidyate sataha. For the existence, there can be no non-existence. Existence cannot be made into non-existence, and non-existence cannot be made into existence too. He very clearly says this. So, I cannot make something which exists as non-existence or something which does not exist as existence. Like if there is a black dot in my white cloth, then I can use some whitener and remove it, soap and remove it. But if it is an idea of a dot, I cannot use soap or accept any activity. I have to use it only, I have to remove it only through the knowledge. Because that black spot in the white dress is because of the ignorance of the whiteness. So that can only be negated through the knowledge, not activities. So that is why we say it can be negated only through the knowledge. Okay. So rajjvajñānādbhāti, because of the ignorance of the rope, I see the snake. Then the solution. What is the solution for that? āptoktyā'hibhrāntināśe rajju. āptoktya. When apta means yathāhiḥ. Yathāhiḥ means a person who sees and says as it is. So a person who says things as it is called as apta. Meaning the person who is a trustworthy person. You believe whatever he says. He is a trustworthy person. That trustworthy person is called as apta. Uktya, when he says, see, war. Okay, that is what you are seeing as snake. See, he shines a torch on a light on it. and say, see, it's just a rope. It's not a snake. Okay. Oh, that split in the rope is what I saw as mouth, and this sharp edge is what I saw as tail. Okay, now I am clear. So this, when he shines the torch and gives you the knowledge that it is not a snake, it is a rope, then he says, āptoktyā'hibhrāntināśe sa rajju bhāti. When the ignorance, the erroneous knowledge of snake is removed, then the rope shines. This is not directly truth. This is said in such a way, it is to give something else, some other idea. See, if you take it as ad verbatim, as it is, as literally as said, when the ignorance of the snake is removed, the erroneous knowledge of snake is removed, the rope knowledge shines. It need not be. Because if the ignorance of the rope, snake knowledge is removed, I can have some other knowledge there, erroneous knowledge there. Think as, I see rope as a snake. I remove the snake. Oh, it is not a snake. It may be a twig. Remove it. It may be a water stream. Remove it. It can be a crack on the ground. Remove it. So there can be hundreds and thousands of different knowledges possible in that rope. Not exactly the rope knowledge. Just because you remove one erroneous knowledge, there can be possibilities of other erroneous knowledge on that. So the erroneous knowledge is removed only through the knowledge of the substratum. Adhisthana tattva sakshatkarat matram. Only through the knowledge of the substratum can the erroneous knowledge be removed, and not the otherwise. Then why did he say that? Because when this rope shines, at that very moment the erroneous knowledge is removed. That erroneous knowledge, whenever that is removed, at that very moment the rope shines. Meaning there is no time gap between the erroneous knowledge removal and the rope shining. Because where did this rope come into existence from? We have rope, the snake. Where did the snake come into existence? Snake means this whole world. How did it come into existence? There are people who accept parinamavada, transformation. They don't accept transformation. Parinamavada, like a transformation of cotton into thread, or clay into pot, etc. That is transformation. There is some cause real, and the effect is also real. So if you see the transformation, then the rope transformed into snake, then you cannot, it's a very difficult thing. You cannot get rid of it through knowledge. Jnana nivartitam will be impossible. So we accept vivartavada. You can say vivartavada or abhasavada, does not really matter, not too much difference. Anyway, that's all hair splitting. Vivartavada means a seeming transformation. Abhasa means a seeming existence. So the vivartavada, just seeming transformation or seeming existence, similar. Okay. So the seeming transformation, not real transformation. If the Brahman transforms itself into Jagat, then the Brahman, because it undergoes transformation, it becomes a non-eternal. Whatever undergoes transformation cannot be eternal. Whether it transforms itself partly or fully, wholly, nothing, no difference. It is non-eternal. So because of the ignorance of the substratum Brahman, the substratum seems to seemingly transformed into the creation. Didn't transform, seemingly transformed. Non-real transformation. So that is why he says svātmājñānādbhāti, because of the ignorance of inherent nature of self, ātmanaḥ, of the self, jīvabhāvaḥ, of oneself. Ātmanaḥ means of oneself, jīvabhāvaḥ. One has attained the state of jiva pranadharani, to have prana, etc., meaning embodied. One becomes embodied because of the ignorance regarding one's inherent nature. Then how do I get rid of it? He says, deśikoktyā. Deśikoktyā. Deśika means guru. Uktya means through the teaching. Through the teaching, through the words of the guru. āptoktyā, a trustworthy person. Deśikoktyā, from the guru. You have to understand the person whom you have shraddha in is guru, and the person who is a guru should be trusted. You should have to have shraddha there. Shraddha and guru inseparable. If you have shraddha, that person is your guru. If you have guru, that in that person you have to have shraddha. That is a choiceless shraddha. Oh, no, there is no choice. It is over. There is no question whether it is worldly or scriptural. No questions. So, deśikoktyā. Through the words of the guru, śivo'ham, nāhaṃ, jīvabhāvaḥ. There are two ways to interpret this. Nāhaṃ, jīvabhāvaḥ, śivo'ham. I am not the jiva, I am Shiva. Or I am Shiva, I am not jiva. Whichever way you say, it is not different. That, like I said, the erroneous knowledge is removed at the same time of the right knowledge. The right knowledge, whenever it takes place, it removes the erroneous knowledge. Because normally what we see is when the ignorance is removed, the self shines in its inherent nature. That is how we explain. But the ignorance is removed. How do you remove the ignorance? Only by gaining a steadfast clarity regarding your inherent nature. No other way. Only the knowledge of rope can get rid of all the different kinds of erroneous knowledge possible regarding that rope. Once you have a clarity that it is rope, no amount of ignorance can bring in any other change there. Because the right knowledge is an obstacle for erroneous knowledge. When you have the knowledge that that I am the inherent nature, I am the self, my inherent nature is self, I am the self, that cannot be removed, destroyed by any ignorance. Yathartha jnana becomes an obstacle for ayathartha jnana, the wrong knowledge. So, aham shivaha, I am the absolute. Nāhaṃ jīva, I am not the individual. So, I am the individual, I am not the individual, I am the absolute, or I am the absolute, I am not the individual. Whichever way, that takes at the very same time. The erroneous knowledge is removed at the very same time of knowledge. It's like a coupling. One you remove, the other gets removed as well. So, whichever you remove, the other is removed as well. That is why, to gain the clarity regarding the self, clarity means doubtless, errorless. That is what is clarity. Clarity means samshaya viparyaya rahita jnanam. Samshaya, doubt, viparya, error. So, a knowledge which is doubtless and which is errorless. When you have that knowledge, how do you gain that knowledge? By trusting the words of Guru and inquiring into it and being established in that. That is why we do Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. The Manana, the inquiry, the contemplation, the meditation into it, the contemplation, the inquiry into it is possible, is necessary only because just by listening, we are not able to accept it. So, when you do that, then what happens? Śivo'ham, I am the absolute. Nāhaṃ jīva, I am not the jiva, one who is associated with the prana, etc. Okay, this we get, we'll understand. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.